Welcome to Salsido Paranormal. Excuse me. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight we are continuing our review of The Book of the Damned by Charles Fort. As always, you can find all episodes of the show and along with links to social media, ways to listen, and ways to support the show. And at the website, there we go. And that is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com. And there support you can words are hard. You can support the show in many ways. You can share the show with others and rate and review it on your favorite podcast platform. You can also check out the Patreon feed and get all the content there for as little as $1 a month. You can also find merchandise, all kinds of shirts and some other items at through the website as well. And those all have designs made by friends of the show. Also, please check out the links in every episode description for the show to help friends of the show as well. That would be Jen, the Arcane Observer, who has her own channel, but also is usually the co-host of the show on Saturdays, and Michael Strange of Trouble Minds Radio and the Trouble Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting, where you can hear all kinds of amazing shows as well as my own 24/7. So as we get back into this reading, a few things to note here. First off, the words and ideas that I'm reading and sharing here are from Fort, not, and we may not all agree with them. Also, there may be some things that Fort talks about in his writing that were mysterious or anomalous at the time, which is about almost 100 years ago, that have been since then sort of explained or figured out, possibly by science. So, so if anything sounds like he's making a bigger deal of something than he should, that may be why. Also, I will make mistakes in my reading of words and names, people and places, and because words are hard to pronounce sometimes, especially when they are in other languages, and because I only speak English. And so, yeah, just things to keep in mind as I'm reading here, and let's go from there. So let me get back to the book here. Thank you all for being here and listening in. And so far, last time we were reading, Fort was talking about sort of the two extremes of humanoid sizes, which would be giants and little folk, or little people, or any of the many names you might hear them referred to as, because they're all over the world in different forms. So, and we did a show on that a little while back as well. Let's see here. Let me find my spot. And okay. So, if a giant left impressions of his bare feet in the ground, that is not to say that he was a primitive. Bulk of culture out taking the Neep cure? That's a name, but I don't know it. So if Stonehenge is a large but only roughly geometric construction, the inattention to detail by its builders signifies anything you please. Ambitious dwarfs or giants. If giants, that they were little more than cavemen, or that they were post-impressionist architects from a very far advanced civilization. I do like that he's pointing all these things out, which is that people in general, they like to build excuse me, they like to build narratives around things. And so, but those narratives may not always be the actual explanation or the actual real events that happened in any location. So I do like that he points it out. It's sort of what I always talk about, where um, there's this. How do I want to say this? There's some people that think that the idea of extraterrestrials coming from other points in space. There's people out there that think that seems very unlikely, which I can understand that. But also, as I always say, that is based on what humans know as of now. And it's, I highly doubt that that is everything at this point. So if we don't know everything, then there may be ways to do that, and along with many other things that we think are impossible, that may not be. Anyway, back to the book here. If there are other worlds, there are tutelary worlds, or that Kepler, for instance, could not have been absolutely wrong that his notion of an angel assigned to push along and guide each planet may not be very acceptable, but that abstractedly, or in the notion of a tutelary relation, we may find acceptance. Only to be is to be tutelary. Our general expression that everything in intermediateness is not a thing, but is an endeavor to become something by breaking away from its continuity, or merging away with all other phenomena, is an attempt to break away from the very essence of a relative existence and become absolute. If it have not surrendered to or become part of some higher attempt, that to this process there are two aspects: attraction, or the spirit of everything to assimilate all other things, if it have not given in and subordinated to, or have not been assimilated by, some higher attempted system, unity, organization, entity, harmony, equilibrium, and repulsion, or the attempt of everything to exclude or disregard the unassimilable. Universality of the process. Anything conceivable. A tree. It is doing all it can to assimilate substances of the soil and substances of the air, and sunshine, too, into tree substance. Aversely, it is rejecting or excluding or disregarding that which it cannot assimilate. Uh, Cow grazing, pig rooting, tiger stalking, planets trying or acting to capture comets, uh, rag pickers, and the Christian religion. I'm not sure what that means, but anyway, hope it's not a terrible phrase. And a cat down headfirst in a garbage can. Nations fighting for more territory. Science correlating the data they can. Trust magnates organizing. Chorus girl out for a little late supper. All of them stop somewhere by the unassimilable. Okay, that's my spot. There we go. Chorus girl and the broiled lobster. If she eats not shell, and all she represents universal failure to positivize. I don't even know what that means there. Also, if she does, she represents universal failure to positivize. Her ensuing disorders will translate her to the negative absolute. Or science and some of our cursed hard-shelled data. One speaks of the tutelarian as if it were something distinct in itself. So one speaks of a tree, a saint, a barrel of pork, the Rocky Mountains. One speaks of missionaries as if they were positively different, or had identity of their own, or were a species by themselves. To the intermediatist, excuse me, everything that seems to have identity is only attempted identity, and every species is continuous with all other species, or that which is called the specific is only emphasis upon some aspect of the general. If there are cats, their only emphasis upon universal felinity. Felinity. There is nothing that does not partake of that of which the missionary or the titulary is the special. Every conversation is a conflict of missionaries, each trying to convert the other, to assimilate, or to convert the other, or no, to assimilate, or to make the other similar to himself. If no progress made, mutual repulsion will follow. So there's a lot there, but it's let me see here. Yeah, Don, it's a name. It's not spelled that way, but it's okay. So Don thinks it was a practice of weeding out waiting out at neap tide for health reasons. Could be, I don't know. That's something. Yeah, I'm not sure. Okay, back to the words here. If other worlds have ever in the past had relations with this earth, they were attempted positivizations to extend themselves by colonies upon this earth, to convert or assimilate indigenous inhabitants of this earth, or parent worlds and their colonies here. Super Romanimus, or where the first Romans came from. Again, I think like I said, always said earlier, last episode. I think sometimes he makes up the names of places of these other worlds, and comes up with ideas of what they might be to make his points. It's as good as the Romulus and Remus story. Super Israelimus. Yeah, so he's making up things. Or that despite modern reasoning upon this subject, there was once something that was superparental or titulary to early Orientals. Azuria, which was titulary to the early Britons. Azuria, whence came the blue Britons, whose descendants gradually diluting, like bluing in a washtub, where a faucet's turned on, have been most emphasized of subtitularians or assimilators ever since. There was a previous episode here from tonight, as we're recording this, where Fort referred to an account of a baby being born that was blue, and I'm guessing was still healthy, but otherwise they would have probably said um, that there was blue because of a health condition. But so yeah, let me see here. So were they blue or royal? I don't. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. Yeah, I think so. Don says he breaks my mind. I think he breaks a lot of people's minds. He breaks my mind sometimes just with the words he picks. So, but that's okay because there's just so much here that is fascinating that I'm willing to continue on with it. Uh, Worlds that were once tutelarian worlds before this earth became sole property of one of them. Their attempts to convert or assimilate, but then the state that comes to all things in their missionary frustrations, unacceptance by all stomachs of some things, rejection of all societies of some units, glaciers that sort over and cast out stones, repulsion, wrath of the baffled missionary. There is no other wrath. All repulsion is reaction to the unassimilable. So then the wrath of Azuria, because surrounding peoples of this earth would not assimilate with their own colonists in the part of the earth that we now call England. I don't know that there has ever been more uh, nearly just, reasonable, or logical wrath in this earth's history, if there is no other wrath. The wrath of Azuria, because the other peoples of this earth would not turn blue to suit her. Okay. History is a department of human delusion that interests us. We are able to give a little uh, advancement to history. In the vitrified forts of a few parts of Europe, we find data that the Humes and Gibbons have disregarded. The vitrified forts surrounding England, but not in England. The vitrified forts of Scotland, Ireland, Brittany, and Bohemia. Or that once upon a time, with electric blasts, Azuria tried to swipe this earth clear of the people who resisted her. The vast blue bulk of Azuria appeared in the sky. Clouds turned green. The sun was formless and purple in the vibrations of wrath that were emanating from Azuria. The whitish or yellowish or brownish peoples of Scotland, again, this is Fort's words, not mine, Scotland, Ireland, Brittany, and Bohemia, fled to hilltops and built forts. In a real existence, hilltops, or easiest accessibility to an aerial enemy, would be the last choice in refuges. But here, in quasi-existence, if we're accustomed to run to hilltops in times of danger, we run to them just the same, even with danger closest to hilltops. Very common in quasi-existence, attempt to escape by running closer to the pursuing. They built forts, or already had forts, on hilltops. Something poured electricity upon them. The stones of these forts exist to this day, vitrified or melted and turned to glass. The archaeologists have jumped from one conclusion to another, like the rapid chamois we read of a while ago, to account for vitrified forts, always restricted by the commandment that unless their conclusions conform to such tenets as exclusionism of the system, they would be excommunicated. So archaeologists, in their medieval dread of excommunication, have tried to explain vitrified forts in terms of terrestrial experience. We find in their insufficiencies the same old assimilating of all that could be assimilated, and disregard for the unassimilable, conventionalizing into the explanation that vitrified forts were made by prehistoric peoples who built vast fires, often remote from wood supply, to melt externally and to cement together the stones of their constructions. But negativeness always. So within itself, a science can never be homogeneous. Homogeneous, not sure. Or I think it's homogeneous. Or unified. Or harmonious. So Miss Russell, in the Journal of the BAA, I'm not sure what that stands for. Probably, maybe possibly British Association of Archaeologists, not sure, has pointed out that it is seldom that single stones, to say nothing of long walls, of large houses that are burned to the ground, are vitrified. Uh, yeah, UFO help? Possibly. I think that's maybe what he's might be talking about there. Radiation, maybe. Yeah, it's amazing. And I've heard of other places in the world where I think it's like is India? I forget now where places where it's said that there's evidence of nuclear explosions that happened centuries or longer ago. So, so yeah. Let's see if we can get through another paragraph here. Uh, if we pay a little attention to this subject ourselves before starting to write upon it, which is one of the ways of being more nearly real than oppositions so far encountered by us, we find uh, that the stones of these forts are vitrified, and no reference to cementing them. And that's where we're going to leave in the middle of that paragraph because we don't have time to keep on going. Yes, the sand glass, right? Yeah. So I don't know. It's possible, and the thing is, the further back you go, the harder it is to find just all the details of any event. I mean, I'd imagine so. But yeah, this has been amazing so far. As usual, I love reading this, even though it is difficult. It's still he keeps on talking about things that and using different words, different names that are still things that we talk about today. And so I really enjoy this, and hope everyone else does as well. And eventually we will get done with this series, but I'm really not in a hurry because I enjoy it so much. Thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.